2050년 바닷속. 바닷속은 물고기 반 쓰레기 반의 오염된 세상이에요. 15번째 생일을 맞은 인어공주는 바다 위 세상을 구경하러 나왔어요.
어머나, 아름다워라.
2050년 바닷속. 바닷속은 물고기 반 쓰레기 반의 오염된 세상이에요. 15번째 생일을 맞은 인어공주는 바다 위 세상을 구경하러 나왔어요.
어머나, 아름다워라.
그러다가 커다란 배 한 척을 보았지요.
절대로 안 된다. 우리 바다를 이렇게 오염시킨 게 바로 인간이야.
아버지는 둘의 사랑을 허락하지 않았어요. 생각에 잠겨있던 인어공주는 마녀를 찾아갔어요. 다시 눈을 떴을 때 인어공주는 바닷가에 누워있었어요. 하지만 목소리가 나오지 않는 인어공주는 바다를 지키기 위해 혼자서만 애써 노력할 수밖에 없었어요. 그러는 동안 왕자가 이웃 나라 공주와 결혼하게 된다는 이야기를 들었어요.
이제 나는 물거품이 되겠구나. 바다도 사랑도 다 잃는구나.
안녕? 난 샤워벌이라고 해. 에셈.
이야, 약은 금방 물고기에게 먹혀버리고 말아서 경로 나까지 온 건 처음 보네. 그러고 보니까 나도 물고기들한테 잡아먹혔던 적 있었는데 그때만 생각하면 아직도 땀이 절로 나와.
아유, 안녕하슈. 나는 그물이유. 나는 1945년 광복을 보고 왔어요. 나도 한때는 충청도 앞바다에서 열불나게 일을 했던 시절이 있었죠. 근데 그 물은 한 번 놓치면 버려지는 신세이니 나도 일이 된 거죠. 나는 바라는 게 딱 한 가지요. 바다에서 쓰는 것들은 잘 잃어버리니까 친환경적으로 생분해성으로 만들어졌으면 좋겠어요. 그렇게 해줄 거죠?
안녕하세요. 영화 리뷰하는 해양 피켓터 해피켓입니다. 이렇게 신선한 충격을 주었던 영화 해운대의 후속작이자 패러디물이 나온다고 합니다. 자연재해는 아니지만 후에 쓰나미보다 더욱 큰 재난이자 재앙이 될 수 있는 해양 오염을 기본 모티프로 한 영화인데요. 바로 동해운대입니다. 아직 개봉 전이지만 시사회평에 따르면 환경오염, 특히 해양오염에 대한 경각심을 제대로 일깨워주는 영화였다고 했는데요. 시사회에 참여한 환경운동가 임모 씨도 이 영화를 접하고 많은 사람들이 날로 심각해져가는 해양오염 문제 해결에 동참해야 한다고 언급했습니다. 이런 가운데 현재 논란이 되고 있는 후쿠시마 원전 오염수 해양 방류 문제가 대두되고 있는 만큼 개봉될 시 국민들의 관심이 뜨거울 것으로 예상됩니다. 이렇게 해운대 이후 최악의 재난을 다룬 동해운대에 대해 설명드렸는데요. 많은 관심과 함께 해양오염 문제 해결에도 작은 동참을 권유하며 오늘 영상 마무리 짓도록 하겠습니다. 이상 해피캣입니다. 감사합니다.
알록달록 산호초는 이제 하얗게 질렸어. 물살이들 뱃속에는 플라스틱 두성. 갯벌에 사는 새와 생물 모두 집을 잃었어. 그 바닷속 생명들은 불행하게 산다네. Under the sea, under the sea. 도대체 바닷속은 이렇게 있을까? 더욱더 편해지기 위해 끝도 없는 욕심 부려 더 이상 안전한 곳은 없어 Under the sea, under the sea. 어떻게 하면 모두가 행복하게 살까? 가까운 거리 물발로 바다에 쓰레기 주워 사람들에게 문제를 알려 Under the sea.
안녕하십니까. PJ18 뉴스입니다. 요즘 환경 파괴가 문제가 되고 있는데 지금 쓰레기장에 있는 박정현 기자 연결하도록 하겠습니다. 이 흔한 물체는 플라스틱이 아닌 종량제 봉투에 버려야 합니다. 그리고 우리가 많이 사용하는 플라스틱도 다 씻은 다음 버려야 합니다. 우리는 이제 재활용을 해 지구의 환경 파괴를 막아야 됩니다. 이상 PJT 뉴스였습니다.
바다에서 뛰는 아기 꽃잘씨 무럭무럭 쑥쑥 크고 싶어요. 아름다운 바다숲을 만들어가며 내일을 꿈꾸고 싶어. 하지만 지금 바닷속 세상은 지독한 냄새와 쓰레기 더미에 우리 모두가 숨을 쉴 수 없어요. 이제부터 우리 함께 지켜가요. 부탁해. 플라스틱 일회용품 사용 줄이고 쓰레기는 분리수거 꼭꼭 지켜요. 푸른 물결 넘실 희망찬 바다 우리의 바다를 부탁해. 우리의 바다를 부탁해.
바다에 갈 때 선크림 잊지 않으셨죠? 그런데 여러분이 잊지 않고 꾹꾹 챙기는 선크림이 해양 생태계를 파괴할 수도 있다는 사실 알고 계셨나요?
선크림에 함유된 옥시벤존, 옥티노세이트, 엔자카멘, 부틸파라벤 등의 화학물질은 350만 갤런에 1g만 있어도 해양 생태계에 악영향을 끼칠 수 있습니다.
이 화학물질들은 물고기의 성장과 번식을 저해하고
산호의 백화 현상을 가속화합니다.
그럼 우리는 선크림을 쓰지 말아야 할까요?
그렇지 않습니다. 바다를 오염시키지 않는 리프세이프 선크림을 쓰면 내 피부를 보호하는 동시에 바다도 보호할 수 있습니다.
리프세이프 선크림 잊지 말아요.
이 어린이의 이름은 바다해 구할수 해수입니다. 해수는 신나게 놀다가 그만 그물에 걸리고 말았습니다. 그날부터 바다는 점점 더러워지고 쓰레기로 오염되기 시작합니다. 이는 이 범죄의 방관자입니다. 과연 거북이에게만 이런 일이 일어날까요?
저는 여러분에게 세 가지를 요청합니다. 첫째, 친환경 소비자가 되어주세요. 둘째,
담배꽁초를 아무데나 버리지 말아주세요. 셋째, 해안가에 쓰레기를 함부로 버리지 말아주세요.
이 세 가지를 지킨다면 미래도 지킬 수 있고 바다도 지킬 수 있습니다. 당신은 바다를 버리는 바보가 되겠습니까? 바보는 바보 같은 짓입니다. 우리의 미래를 지켜주세요.
바다와 당당히 마주하다를 실천하기 위해 식사 시간에 스마트 기기 사용하지 않기를 제안하고자 한다. 스마트 기기는 다양한 정보와 생활의 편리함을 제공하지만 디지털 탄소 발생의 문제점을 발생시켜요. 혹시 여러분은 스마트 기기 사용 시 배출되는 디지털 탄소에 대해 알고 있나요? 디지털 탄소는 스마트 기기 사용으로 발생하는 이산화탄소의 총량을 말해요. 스마트 기기로 매일 전송때 4g의 이산화탄소가 1분의 통화에는 3.6의 이산화탄소가 발생해요. 식사 시간 동안 스마트 기기 사용 중지를 통해 당당히 바다와 마주할 수 있어요. 생활 속 우리의 작은 실천이 소중한 해양을 지킬 수 있습니다.
산호초는 때때로 바다의 열대우림으로 불립니다. 산호초를 보호하기 위한 해결 방안으로 해양 로봇을 활용한 산호초 되살리기가 있습니다. 호주 퀸즐랜드 공과대학 연구팀은 해양 로봇 라발봇을 개발했습니다. 작은 아기 산호를 암초나 백산호초 지역에 퍼뜨려 살아남은 산호가 싹트고 새로운 산호초 집단을 형성할 수 있다고 합니다. 누군가 혼자 바다를 파괴할 수 없듯 누군가 혼자 바다를 보호할 수 없습니다. 서머니 아닌 위가 되어 우리가 보여주세요.
우리들의 바다를 지켜주세요. 제주도의 파란 바다가 보이시나요? 하지만 10년, 20년 후에는 푸른 바다를 보지 못할 수도 있습니다. 공장에서의 폐기물, 플라스틱 쓰레기, 기름 유출, 무분별한 남획 등 때문이지요. 물론 개인이 열심히 노력하는 것도 중요합니다. 하지만 사회가 변하는 것 또한 중요합니다. 여기 이 사진은 제가 직접 한 기업에게 보낸 글입니다. 음료수 옆에 붙어있는 플라스틱 빨대 사용 자제에 대해 보낸 글이지요. 여러분들도 사회에게 환경 문제에 대한 대응책 마련을 요구하는 게 어떨까요? 사회가 변해야 우리의 해양 환경을 지킬 수 있을 것입니다.
안녕 얘들아, 나 고래야. 오랜만이지. 오늘 내 생일이 와줘서 너무 고마워. 전석걸 준비했으니 맛있게 먹어. 고래야 너무 고마워. 맛있게 보인다. 냠냠냠냠냠.
거북아, 천천히 먹어. 그런데 진짜 맛있다. 얌얌얌얌. 그런데 맛있는 것을 허겁지겁 먹어서 그런지 조금 더운 것 같은데.
니모야, 요즘 나도 너무 더워. 북극에 살고 있는 내 친구 북극곰은 글쎄 빙하가 녹아서 이사를 5번이나 했다지 뭐야.
그리고 온도가 2도만 더 오르면 바다 생태계가 파괴되니까 우리가 해야 되는 방법 3가지를 알아볼까요?
안녕하십니까. 저는 반디기독학교 4학년 엘로 2반 김온유입니다. 일단 오늘날의 지구는 이렇게 변해가고 있지만 미래의 지구는 이렇게 됐으면 좋겠습니다라는 의미로 그려봤습니다. 그럼 지구를 지키는 실천 방법 소개해 보도록 하겠습니다. 1. 반찬을 남기지 않는다. 자전거를 자주 탄다. 물을 아껴 쓴다. 전기를 쓰더라도 줄인다. 지구를 위해 꼬박지롱.
50년 후에는 바다에 있는 해양 생물의 수보다 플라스틱의 수가 더 많아질 것이라는 연구 결과가 있는데요. 알고 계셨나요? 그렇다면 저나 여러분들이 소소하게 도울 수 있는 방법들에 대해 설명을 하겠습니다. 일단 첫 번째로 텀블러 사용하기입니다. 두 번째는 세제 대신 레몬 주스를 설거지하는 데 쓰는 것인데요. 세 번째로는 캠페인 활동을 참여하는 것인데요. 캠페인 활동을 참여하면서 사람들에게 대중적으로 이 문제를 알리며 쓰레기 줍기 같은 활동을 하여서 직접적으로 바다를 낫게 할 수 있습니다. 지금까지 이채원이었습니다. 감사합니다. 바다를 당당히 마주하다, 바다와 당당히 친구하다.
We are going to get started with the 2023 Junior Ocean Conference in a moment. So I'd like to ask all the guests to come inside the hall and take a seat. And please tune into Channel 1 for Korean and Channel 2 for English for simultaneous interpretation.
제3회 주니어 해양 컨퍼런스에 오신 여러분, 2023 제3회 주니어 해양 컨퍼런스에 오신 여러분 환영합니다. 홍보대사 타일러입니다. 바이러스로 시작된 코로나의 무서운 위협에 전 세계가 흔들렸죠. 자연 속의 위기가 얼마나 무서운지 상상하지 못했던 공포를 체험하게 된 겁니다. 곳곳을 돌아보면 자연 속의 위기가 심각하게 우리를 조여오고 있는데요. 그 경고를 이제는 더 이상 무시할 수 없는 거죠. 2015년부터 해수면은 연평균 4.3mm 상승했습니다. 깨닫지 못한 사이에 해양 생태계가 심각한 위기에 빠졌죠. 지구의 평균 온도가 지금보다 2도만 더 오르면 해양 생태계는 완전히 파괴된다는 게 전문가들의 의견입니다. 해양 생태계가 파괴된다면 식량의 위기는 물론이고 해수면 상승으로 인한 기후변화 등 인간의 생존을 위협하는 문제들이 폭풍처럼 몰려올 겁니다. 가만히 앉아서 구경할 수만은 없죠. 그 심각성을 인식하고 여러분의 피켓을 들어주십시오. 첫째, 우리의 바다가 얼마나 위협을 받고 있는지 보도해 주십시오. 둘째, 바다 환경을 지키기 위해서 우리가 할 수 있는 실천 과제를 찾아주십시오. 셋째, 미래의 바다와 해양 생태계를 위한 안전하고 창의적인 활용 아이디어를 제안해 주십시오. 여러분의 아이디어를 담은 피켓 영상을 기다려 보겠습니다. 지구를 지켜가는 일에 적극적으로 참여해 주십시오. 그 뜨거운 마음을 모아서 7월 28일 금요일 부산에서 여러분을 기다리겠습니다.
Welcome to the 2023 Junior Ocean Conference. My name is Eun Kyung-ha and I'm your host for today's event. Nice to meet you all. Today's event is being interpreted simultaneously in English and Korean, and it is an international event. You can watch it on YouTube, so please select your preferred language. And you can use the receiver on the chair. Channel 1 is for Korean and Channel 2 is for English. Please select your language of your preference. So before we begin, let's check whether you can use the receiver. Please wear the receiver. Please tune in to channel 1 for Korean and channel 2 for English. If the receiver doesn't work, please give it to the staff or ask help for our staff, to our staff.
통역기 사용은 다들 괜찮으실까요?
Channel 2, English channel, channel 2. Mic test, testing for the mic, channel 2.
네, 그리고 아직 착석하시고 계시는 분들이
For those of
계신데요.
you who are still
손목에
standing,
띠에 입장하실 때 받았던 손목에 띠 있죠.
you
그 손목에
receive
띠가
the
본인의
bracelet.
좌석 번호에
When
해당됩니다.
entering the hall,
좌석을
you can see your
찾으셔서
seat
앉으시길
number, so
바랍니다.
please sit at the designated seat.
네, 아직 입장 중이시고요. 네. 네, 입장이 정리되는 대로
So once
시작하도록
the hall is
하겠습니다.
organized, we will begin.
해양 위기 Today, junior members will discuss about ocean crisis, climate crisis, and sustainable Earth, and this event is celebrating its third edition. You may have seen the videos while waiting for the conference. We had a preliminary event in May. Those were the winning videos from the Ocean Picket Challenge. This is a video competition for ideas about the oceans and climate, environmental risk, and ocean development. Every year we receive over 400 submissions from around the world, and this year we have selected 25. And all of the messages were so important and valuable to us, so it was hard to choose a winner. The judges were Professor Kim Do-hoon from Pugyong National University and Mr. Han Deok-kun from Korea Maritime Institute, Yoo Young-im, CEO of News One, Busan Gyeongnam, and Ha Eun-kyung from Silla University. So before the conference, we will hold an award ceremony for the 2023 Picket Challenge. So the awards for 10 categories and 25 teams will be presented by Ms. Yoo Jong-im. Please give her a big round of applause. So for the winning teams, when I call your name, please come up to the stage. Clean Ocean Award, News One Busan Gyeongnam Award. Lee Ga-on, Yewon Elementary School, Busan. Clear Ocean Award, Chairman's Award of IQ, Busan Bandi Christian School, Kim On-yu. St. John's Ferry Academy, Jeju, Lee Tae-won. Clear Ocean Award, Busan Environmental Cooperation Chairman's Award, Kwon Min-ju from Gangnam Elementary School, Seoul, Kim Na-eun and Kim Myung-jun from Samjeong Elementary School, and Sayako Lilo and 4 others from Busan International School of Foreigners. Next is Beautiful Ocean Award from President of Korea Ocean Business Corporation, Yoo Eun-chae from Seogwipo Girls High School, Jeju Island, Yongin Foreign Language High School, Gyeonggi Province, Jung Yoo-jin and Kim Kyu-bin from Jeonbuk National University High School. Beautiful Ocean Award, KMI President Award, Fu Ji-hyo, Oh Ye-na, An Yeon-ju. Open Ocean Award, this award goes to Jo Min-jung, Jeon Eun-ha from Yongin Foreign Language High School, and to Kim Do-eun and 21 others from Busan Elementary School, and to Park Jung-hyun. Next is Open Ocean Award from President of Kiosks, Park Jae-jun and 8 others from Seoul Sukna School, Im Kang-hyun from Yongin Foreign Language High School, and Kang Eun-kyo from Gyeongnam Gumnam Middle School. Deep Ocean Awards. This goes to Park Sun-ha of Busan Kaesong High School, and Kim Tae-sung and 3 others from Gangwon Dongmyeong Middle School. And Shining Ocean Award goes to Sa Chae-eun and 34 others from Environmental Club of Yeonjae-gu, and to Jung Ye-won of Seogwipo Girls High School. And Shining Ocean Award goes to Lee Soo-ju, Jung, and 3 others. And finally, Sustainable Ocean Award from the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries. This award goes to Kim Do-hoon and 4 others from Cheongju Middle School, and Nojia and 9 others from Busan Yeongdo Je-il Middle School. And all winners will receive a certificate and a small gift certificate. And especially to the winners of the Minister of Ocean and Fishery Award will receive cash prize of 1 million won. Let's begin the award ceremony. Sustainable Ocean Award, Roji and 9 others from Yeongdo Je-il Middle School. I present you this award in recognition of the contribution to the 2022 Junior Ocean Picket Challenge organized by News One Busan Gyeongnam to effectively raise awareness of the seriousness of the marine environment crisis and overcome it. July 28, 2023, Cho Seung-hwan, Minister of Ocean and Fisheries. Once again, congratulations. Let's take a photo together.
여러분을 향해 잠시 서주시길 바랍니다. 기념 촬영을 위해 카메라 앞에 당당히 서주시길
So please
부탁드립니다.
face the camera in front of you for the group photo.
네, 사진 촬영이 있겠습니다. 카메라 보시고 활짝.
Please smile.
네, 다 되셨을까요? 네, 이제 인사드리고 퇴장하도록 하겠습니다. 자, 박수로 부탁드립니다.
Once again, please give them a big round of applause.
이렇게 피켓 챌린지는요, 해양 컨퍼런스의 사전
The
행사로
Picket Challenge was held as a pre-event to the Ocean Conference. Students who win the challenge are given the right to speak at the next year's conference. So, from participating in the challenge to being a speaker, please actively participate and good luck. The winning videos can also be viewed on the Junior Ocean Conference website, so please visit our website as well.
지금 영화가 준비가 되고 있을 텐데요.
So we have
잠시 짧은
prepared
영화 하나 상영하시고
a short video,
나가겠습니다.
short movie, and please watch for a while.
착한 참치 이야기.
저는 미래 아빠예요. 착한 방법으로 물고기를 잡는 어부예요.
저는 바다와 물고기를 좋아하는 미래예요.
저는 한국을 사랑하는 이탈리아 요리사 파브리예요.
오늘은 미래가 파브리 아저씨와 함께 요리사로 변신할 거예요. 파브리 아저씨, 오늘 만들 음식은 뭐예요?
오늘은 참치와 바나나를 이용한 참나나 샌드위치를 만들어 볼 거야.
참치와 바나나 모두 미래가 좋아하는 것들이에요. 파브리 아저씨, 오늘 필요한 재료들은 뭐예요?
먼저 참치와 바나나 그리고 통밀식빵이 필요하단다. 그 중에서도 가장 중요한 재료는 참치이지. 착한 방법으로 잡아서 MSC 인증을 받고 에코라벨이 붙어있는 참치를 사용하는 것이 가장 중요하지.
아하, MSC 에코라벨, 이 파란색 스티커 말이죠?
파란색 에코라벨이 붙은 참치는 저 멀고 먼 바다에서 착한 방법으로 잡아온다는 것을 의미해.
아, 어부들이 지구의 미래를 위해 물고기들을 착하게 잡는다는 뜻이죠? 조금 더 자세히 알려주세요.
그래. 자세히 알려줄게. 착하게 잡는 방법에는 두 가지가 있어, 미래야.
우리 미래 호기심이 많구나. 좋아.
첫 번째 방법은 그물을 이용하는 방법이야. 그물을 이용할 때에는 먼저 고래랑 상어, 바다거북 같은 바닷속 큰 친구들이 참치 무리들과 가까이 있는지 확인을 해봐야 해. 그 친구들이 참치 무리와 멀어지는 것을 확인한 후에 그물을 바닷속으로 내려야 한단다. 이렇게 해야 점점 사라져가는 바다 친구들을 보호할 수 있어. 그물을 올렸는데 바다 거북이나 고래 친구들이 함께 올라오면 이 친구들은 그물에서 꺼내 바닷속으로 다시 돌려보내주지. 보호해야 할 바다 생명체들이거든. 그리고 미래처럼 작은 꼬마 참치가 잡히면 얼마나 작은지 알기 위해 길이만 재보고 그 꼬마 참치는 더 자랄 수 있도록 다시 바닷속으로 돌려보내게 돼. 너무 어린 참치들을 마구 잡아버리면 미래가 커서 어른이 됐을 때 참치를 먹지 못하게 될지도 모르니까 말이야. 착하게 참치를 잡는 두 번째 방법은 길다랗고 튼튼한 낚싯대를 이용해서 한 마리씩 잡는 방법이야. 낚싯줄엔 참치만 한 마리씩 잡히니 다른 물고기나 바다 친구들이 함께 잡힐 걱정이 줄어들겠지.
그럼 바다 친구들을 보호할 수 있겠네요.
그렇지. 하지만 혹시나 바다 친구들이나 어린 참치가 낚싯줄에 걸린다면 안전하게 바늘을 제거하고 다시 바다로 돌려보내야 해.
다른 바다 친구들과 어린 참치들을 잡지 않고 충분히 자란 참치들만 그물로 조심스럽게 잡거나 낚싯대를 이용해 한 마리씩 잡는 방법. 이 두 가지 방법을 MSC에서는 착한 어업으로 인정하고 파란색 에코라벨을 붙여주게 된단다.
와, 파브리 아저씨! 앞으로는 꼭 이 MSC 파란색 에코라벨이 붙은 참치 통조림을 구입할게요.
다른 바다 친구들을 해치지 않는 착한 방법으로 잡힌 참치를 고르겠습니다.
약속. 자, 그럼 미래야, 지금부터 착한 방법으로 잡은 참치로 맛있는 참나나 샌드위치를 만들어 볼까?
와, 신난다. 파브리 아저씨 배고파요. 어서 만들어봐요.
네. The
Marine Stewardship Council, or MSC, has a gift for you. MSC has prepared children's storybooks hand-painted on FSC certified paper from sustainably managed forests, and a can of sustainably caught and eco-labeled tuna, and a net go bag. 35% of the world's fish stocks are threatened by overfishing, so we humans share deep concerns about the future of fish stock. How can you protect the ocean and get fish at the same time? Let's think about it together in the video you just watched. Once again, thank you for the gift. And now it's time to set the stage for the Junior Ocean Conference. The conference is organized every year by the juniors who participated in the Picket Challenge. So today's opening declaration will be made by the directors of Junior Planning Committee. So please welcome a second Junior Planning Team Leader, Kim Dong-wook from Faculty of Natural Sciences, Seoul National University, and third Junior Planning Team Leader, Busan International High School, Woo Ari. And now I'd like to introduce Junior Oceans Conference Chairman Yoo Jung-im. Good morning, everyone. I am Kim Dong-wook, 2022 Picket Challenge Planning Committee Leader. As the organizer of last year's conference, I'm very happy and excited to see the conference evolving. I am Uari, this year's leader. I joined the Picket Challenge because of my infinite love for the environment, and I'm honored and proud to be on this big stage. I am Yoo Jung-im, chairman of Junior Oceans Conference. We are celebrating the third event, and then the conference is all about you. So let's get started. We are here for the third 2023 Junior Ocean Conference for a Sustainable Planet. We are passionate and sincere about the future of environment. We declare the opening of the 2023 Junior Ocean Conference. Please welcome them with a big round of applause. Thank you.
It's time for the keynote speech. There are many juniors who are concerned about the ocean and climate crisis and are trying to protect our environment. The Junior Ocean Conference is becoming the only international event for juniors in Korea as a response to their call to pass on the future environment. Today, we have summoned to recognize how valuable and necessary efforts are. Through the Biodiversity Foundation, he is telling you the importance of all life on Earth. Dr. Choi Jae-chun, an ecologist who is a distinguished professor at Ewha University, he will give us keynote speech. The topic of the presentation is ecological turn, climate and biodiversity crisis. Good morning, everyone. I see a lot of you are here. Thank you for coming to the event. I don't think I have a lot of time, so I'd like to go to the presentation without further ado.
제가 드리는 말씀에 키워드가 있느냐, 핵심어가 있느냐라고
If you ask me if there's any keyword of my word, I would say that's ecological turn. Sociologists say there have been very valuable turns in the human history 2 times. First one is linguistic turn, and the second turn is the cultural turn. And over the last about 2 decades, there have been robot, technological, and those turns have been there. I'm not a sociologist. I'm an ecologist. We went through this pandemic of COVID-19. I was really skeptic about the use of this technological turn on everything else. And we were like the king of the world, but we were hit hard by the virus, and which determined the life and death of all the people on Earth. Well, a lot of people lost their lives without any cause or meaning. And against this backdrop, rather than those turns, I believe ecological turn is very important to determine how we can define the relationship between the human beings and the nature. That's why I put up the key word as the ecological turn as the topic of my presentation. So I think that's the most urgent issue that the humankind faces. I did some study on the WHO website, and the official statistics is that nearly 70 million people were infected, and about 7 million people have lost their lives to the virus. So this virus is not even a live being, but the king of all the things on Earth, all the things on Earth lost their lives to this simple thing. I keep saying these things all the time. I believe that the spectrum of disaster is changing. That's what I keep saying every day these days. And in the past, disaster or the pandemic was not something that may take place in the developed countries. Those things used to take place in the developing countries. But during the pandemic, which country was the one who lost the most lives and the most hit most hardest? That was the U.S. That's the country where this virus hit hardest. So these things are changing, or ecology is changing the spectrum of disaster. This natural disaster used to take place in those poor countries like Bangladesh and other countries. Do you remember in 2021 in West Europe, there was a big flood taking place on that continent. So you may recall the images that these narrow alleys were filled of these Western European countries were filled with these floating cars. Those countries may include Germany, Luxembourg, and we used to think those are the advanced countries, and we were really surprised to find out they were not really well equipped with the sewage. If the Netherlands did not have good sewage system, what will happen? Well, we all know, we all learned from the
대수시설로는
textbooks
아마
that Netherlands
세계에서
is a little bit
제일
lower
겁니다.
than the sea level.
그런
So
나라들이 왜 이렇게 당했어요?
why
너무나
did
간단한
those
답이 하나
countries have
있죠.
to go through this kind of suffering?
대수시설이
That is
감당할 수
because
없을 정도로 하늘에서
the
비가
rain
쏟아졌으니까 이런 일이 벌어진
was
거죠.
the rain fell
부산에도 그런
more
곳이
than
있는지는
what those
모르겠는데요.
countries could stand
서울에서
for.
오신 분이면
Same
다
happened in
아시잖아요.
Korea.
서울의
Last year in Gangnam, Seoul.
인근 그냥 여름마다 저런 일
So
벌어지잖아요.
this flood happens all the time,
사진,
every summer. So this picture on the bottom left is a very famous one from last summer. So he is like sitting on top of his car and he was just looking for some information using his smartphone. So every summer, this area near Gangnam Station suffers this flood. I'm not sure if you remember a Korean film. And this area, actually, Gangnam area used to be the farming land. It was filled with the paddy fields and the farming lands, and that was very flat land. And the people used to do farming there. And Gangnam Station area is a little bit below this the other areas. It's like in a basin. It's not that deep. It's very shallow. But whenever we have some hard or heavy rain, the sewage system cannot stand this amount of water. I think this Gangnam area will suffer it again. And that was a picture from last year. And the picture on the top top left is from 2020, and that's the year when Korea had to go through 54 days of a rainy season. That was the longest in history. So we can say the spectrum of disasters is changing. It doesn't matter which country you are, every country is prone to or exposed to such possibility of such natural disasters. So the world is suffering from the environmental issues, including the climate change and biodiversity. And I believe you've heard about the climate change a lot of times. And IPCC takes the lead in dealing with this issue. And biodiversity, or CBD, so CBD stands for Convention on Biodiversity, and that's under the UN. You may not be able to see all the pictures clearly, but you may say, why am I here? So I'm sitting at the center of the CBD. So I just happened to serve the president of this CBD, and I served the role of the president for 2 years. Well, you may think it was a wonderful experience, but if you ask what was the experience of serving the president of CBD again was like, then I would say, in one word, that's frustration. I'm not sure if you agree with me, but I've had a lot of dissatisfactions against the UN. I was not really satisfied with the work that UN does. Like if there is any conflict in a country, and UN has the Security Council, and China and Russia opposes to the agreement, and because the Security Council has to reach a consensus. I don't like the idea of the majority votes. So with the majority votes, a lot of weird things may happen, but the consensus was not something good as much as I expected. And the headquarters is in Montreal, and the podium is really high. It's almost as high as my height. So I am sitting somewhere between the first and second floor, and on the lower side there is a big hall where the representatives from the 180 countries around the world gather. We have to persuade every single representative of this country and had to reach a consensus. That was an impossible mission, impossible. So I succeeded in persuading a country in Africa, and whereas a country from South America opposes it. So it was a really, really hard job. And IPCC is now headed by Dr. Hwaesung Lee, and he's the Secretary General of this organization. He is a little brother of a politician, Lee Hwae-chang. I really have high respect to Dr. Hwaesung Lee. He has done something I never could succeed. What was the biggest issue in climate change? What has been the biggest issue regarding climate change? So we want to maintain the rise of the temperature of the Earth up within 2 degrees Celsius within the century. A lot of people had a lot of meetings, but they couldn't reach a consensus or agreement. So Thunberry just came up, and she was kind of scolding all those people. You've been just saying words, giving words since the day I was born. And the country who emits the carbon the most is the United States, and the president of that country broke away from the protocol and the agreement on climate change. According to our forecast, if the temperature of the Earth rises more than 2 degrees Celsius, all the living things on Earth may disappear. Half of them may disappear, and that has been our concern. Back in 2018, there was a meeting or conference held in Songdo, Incheon, and as far as I remember, that conference was participated by representatives from 167 countries, and he persuaded every representative there, and he could lower this 2 degrees Celsius to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And I really didn't think it would be successful, but it took enormous amount of leadership to successfully persuade all these representatives. I was there, the conference, as a scientist. When would be the time when the Earth temperature will rise by 1.5 degrees Celsius? According to the scientific calculation, that day will be between 2030 and 2052. As you know, the Earth temperature has risen by 1.1 degrees Celsius, and I don't think it's going to take that long for the Earth to have a 1.4 degrees Celsius higher of temperature. And in the 6th assessment reports from IPCC, and the report said that time would be accelerated by 10 years. Well, what happens at 2030? And if it's 10 years earlier than 2030, that's 2020. We've already passed that time. It's not something that happens outside Korea or some faraway country, and we didn't think it's going to affect us, and it's not going to take place in Korea. But as you know, we have been suffering from these natural disasters for several years now. Well, it's not something that may happen in future. Maybe it's already there. So the conclusion is very simple. There's no time for us to lose or hesitate. So we must take action now. We cannot have any excuse, even if we are hit hard by the disaster caused by the climate change. It's time for us to take actions. As I'm a biologist and ecologist, I have been working for international organizations dealing with ecology or ecosystem. And UN has the UNFCCC, and that's UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. I got an email from UNFCCC saying that you are selected as the champion of climate change. I knew that was a climate change, and I didn't really want to take the role again. And I replied, "What do you mean by champion? It's been a long time since I retired from the boxing."
장난으로 답장을 했어요. 근데 와 저쪽에 담당자가
And
정말
the
허를 찌르더라고요.
person who sent me the email said that by champion, I'm not saying that kind of boxing champion. By champion, we mean it's like an avatar. I was kind of starting to be observed to the idea. What do you mean by avatar? And in your case, you are the avatar of Al Gore. What do you mean by Al Gore? Well, the most conspicuous figure in climate change is the former Vice President Al Gore. He made this documentary titled Uncomfortable Truth, and he even won the Nobel Peace Prize for this work. He is the most sought after person in terms of the climate change, but he is very, how can I say, very expensive. The bottom line is $1 million. We have to pay more than $1 million to invite him to an international event. And maybe that's why this UNFCCC chose me as an avatar of Al Gore and said, in the email, he said, you are not as expensive as Al Gore. So about the time, I accepted the offer. And in my email, I said, you must say instead of saying you are cheap or inexpensive, you must say you are relatively less expensive than Al Gore. And what I do there is I visit any event hosted by UNFCCC, and they ask me if I have some time to attend the event. If I say yes, I can attend that event, then they will send me the air ticket, and that's it. And then I would fly to such events, and on behalf of Al Gore, I do the lecture on the seriousness of the climate change. And a lot of people started to like my lectures on the climate change, and they say it's a very serious issue, but as an ecologist, I would say the more urgent or fatal issue than the climate change is the reducing or decreasing biodiversity. Well, the climate change may be tackled with some technological advancements, but what about the flora and fauna outside there without those technologies? And they will be disappearing one by one. What will happen to the humankind without those animals and plants? And I don't even want to imagine it's going to be like a hell. So that's what I keep telling to the people participating in such events. And I believe the climate issue is ultimately the biodiversity issue. Homo sapiens has appeared on Earth about 300,000 years ago, and of this 300,000 years ago, 290,000 years, humans were nothing. But in the last 10,000 years, as the people or the human beings started to the farming, the development of the humankind started to explode. So we wanted to calculate the ecological existence of the human beings, and we wanted to see how the human beings were like before the people started to do the farming. How many Homo sapiens or people were on Earth before the farming? Maybe somewhere between Italy or the Korea. Korea has a population of slightly more than 50 million, while Italy is about 60 million. So According to the scientific calculation, it was estimated to be around between 50 to 60 million people or human beings. If these 50 to 60 million people were standing on Earth with the same distance, you will not be able to meet the next person even if you walked all day long. So we are almost nothing on Earth during that time. It's been about 40,000 years since people started to raise dogs, and about 33,000 years since the human beings started to raise cats. So, and the farming started about 10,000 years ago. So the farming itself has the shorter history than raising dogs and cats.
그 토탈 바이오매스에서 우리 인간과 개고양이가 차지하는 비율을 우리가 계산해
We
봤는데
calculated the total biomass of the human beings, and it's less than 1%. Human beings account for less than 1% of the total biomass on Earth. So we were nothing. And during the last 10,000 years, human beings account for a lot of portion of the living things on Earth. So every single continent has the human beings. So we have about 8 billion people, and if we multiply 65 kilograms of the weight with the 8 billion, then we will get the number. We also raise other livestock like even ducks and the ostriches and all these living things. And if we add up all the weight of all these living things on our Earth, as of July this year, the total of all the total biomass of the vertebrates and birds, human beings account for 96 to 99% of the total biomass. It's never been like this in the history of the Earth. So 10,000 years out of this 3.8 billion years is nothing. During this very, very short period of time, human beings increased its biomass almost exponentially. It's now dominating the Earth. Then the bacteria and virus that live on those wild animals feel very uncomfortable. They move someday and they come down to these on Earth, and they will be able to meet there's human beings or any livestock that are raised by the human beings. And with the very simple statistical calculation, we can easily guess that this COVID pandemic is not the end of the pandemic the human race will have to go through. It's just the beginning. Then, this is how we raise the livestock. We have to get the eggs and the pigs or cows or ducks with the good quality meat. This is how we farm or raise livestock. We don't have to go to the genetics. Most of all these livestock that we raise are clones or genetically modified ones. So if one animal gets and comes down to disease, the next one will be infected too. And we've never allowed these animals with the social distances. It's like in a factory farming. They have very little space. That will lead to a big pandemic that can spread throughout this area. So if just a few of these animals may have some diseases, then we will have to kill almost all of these animals altogether. But actually, there's no reason behind this. If we change the way we raise those livestock, there's no reason for us to kill all of them. But that's what we keep doing.
여러분이 많이 읽었을
I guess we
이기적인
have read
존재라는
this book,
책은
Selfish
사실은
Gene.
다윈 이래 가장
So it
위대한
was
생물학자라고
written by
칭송받은
the
윌리엄 해밀턴의 어려운
written by
논문을
William
해설한
Hamilton, who
책이라고
is
봐도 과언이
a
아니거든요.
renowned
수학을 많이
ecologist.
사용했지만
He used a lot of
문학을 굉장히
calculations, but he
사랑하셨던
loved
분입니다.
literature. So he
그 중에
wrote
한
this
문장
book.
제가
So I
가져왔습니다.
brought a sentence from his book.
abhors
Nature
pure
abhors
stands.
pure
이렇게 쓰셨는데요. 저는 이 말을
stands. I want to
자연은
rephrase
순수를
it
혐오한다라는 뜻으로 표현합니다.
in
자연이
Korean words.
순수한
자연은
곳이라고
순수를
우리는
혐오한다.
배웠는데 실제로는 자연은 절대로
But
순수해지지
I think
않습니다.
nature will not
시간이
become
주어지면
pure if it
끊임없이
has time.
다양화합니다.
It
알파
diversify.
변이로 시작해서 베타,
There's an alpha
델타,
strand
감마 때문에
of
고생했고요.
pandemic
오미크론
and
나타났고요.
Omicron
또한 2년
virus
동안에
hit us, and for the
끊임없이
past 5
변하는 게
years, the
자연입니다.
viruses has mutated.
그런데 그
That's the
자연
nature.
속에
So within the
일부여야 될
nature,
우리
we
호모
had to be
사피엔스는
only a part of it. Homo sapiens
끊임없이
had to be
다양성을
only a part of
줄입니다.
it, but we
우리가
minimized the
하고 있는
diversity
매일매일의 삶도
in
그렇고요.
living
자연을
in our
대하는
everyday
태도도
life or
저는
towards
이
nature.
자연의 흐름에 역행하는
We
이게 우리의 불행의 근원이 아닐까
caused that
생각합니다.
disaster to
시간이
us.
다 됐나요?
I ran out of time already.
저한테
So
30초만
just give me
주시면
30
제가
seconds, then I'll
마무리하겠습니다.
conclude my presentation.
저는 우리가 팔뚝에 막는 백신보다
We got a
더
vaccine
중요한
shot,
백신이
but I
있다고
think
생각합니다.
there is a more important vaccine to
우리가
us.
우리를
Behavioral
보호할 수 있는
vaccine. We can
백신,
protect
손 잘
ourselves
씻고
by
마스크 잘
behavior,
쓰고
our
거리
behavior,
유지하고
washing hands or
그런가 하면
social
더
distancing.
원천적인 백신,
And there's one
저
more
자연계에서
effective
우리
vaccine which
인간계로 나쁜
is
바이러스나
given by the
박테리아가
nature.
건너오지
So
못하게
we can block the
코로나 백신을 치자는
bad
겁니다.
viruses from
생태
coming from the
백신은
nature, which is an
부다
eco
선생님이나
vaccine.
썰
Famous
같은
Professor
분들이
Jane
그동안
Goodall
열심히
or
우리한테
other
얘기하셨던
renowned scholars
자연
mention
보호입니다.
about the
그걸
eco vaccine, which is
생태
nature
백신이라는
protection.
말로 바꿉니다.
So I rephrase it into eco
그러면 자연
vaccine.
보호는 그동안
So natural
허투루
protection.
들었더라도
Even though you may
생태
have
제가
not
백신이라고
realized the
하는
importance of
순간
nature
결정하셔야 되죠.
protection,
왜?
but if I coin the term as eco vaccine, you need to participate because you
백신은
suffered
사회
for the
구성원의 적어도
past 3
70에서
years.
80%가 함께 접종해야
So far,
집단
in order
면역을
to,
이뤄낼 수
we
있다는
realize that
겁니다.
in order to have
세계
herd
80억
immunity,
인구의 70
70 to
내지
80% of the
80%가
people
자연을
need to get
보호하기
vaccine
시작하면
injection.
앞으로 원천적으로 이런 일이
If we can get in
않을 것이다
vaccine,
하는 겁니다.
anti-vaccine injection for 70 to 80% of the population, then we can have herd immunity. For to the next generation, we need to bestow the benefits of the nature to the next generation. So in order to do that, I want to rephrase the saying of famous writer Park Kyung-mi. She once mentioned in 2002 in the International Association of Ecology, I invited her as a keynote speaker. She received a standing ovation, and she said a famous word, and hundreds and thousands of the participants gave her a standing ovation. And at that time, she mentioned that live on interest only without eating up the principle. This summarizes the concept of sustainability. So the nature that the future generation will have to enjoy, we shouldn't touch the principle. We need to live on interest only. In order to do that, you are here gathered here. I think you are so valuable colleagues of mine. I would like to support all the activities, and I have high hopes. Thank you.
Thank you for your keynote speech, Professor. It's time for the Q&A. It's time for the Q&A, so I'd like to ask the professor to come back to the stage. And we're going to take the questions from the people joining us online and in person here. If you have any question, please raise your hand, and we're going to get a microphone to you. If you have any question, please raise your hand.
혹시 유튜브로 먼저 질문이 들어왔으면
Do we have any question on YouTube?
안녕하세요.
Good morning. I am Kim Se-jong at the Busan Teachers University High School. And you said
모두에게 동의를 받기 힘든 이 세계에서
that getting a consensus was
어떤
very
리더십이
difficult. And
모두가
what do you
자연을
think is
지키고
the leadership that is
공존하며
required to
지켜나갈 수 있는
protect
분위기를
the
조성할 수
the
있을까요?
nature and necessary for the coexistence? I couldn't get the question quite well because of the sound issue here. Well, could you repeat your question?
아까
You said getting a consensus at the UN was really difficult, and it was not easy. It was not enough to protect the.
다시 말하겠습니다.
Let me repeat it again.
아까
You
유엔에서
said
만장일치제를
the
도입했다고
UN
하지 않습니까?
has the system of the consensus, and the consensus requires the agreement from or consent from everyone. And you said it's very difficult to get the agreement from everyone. In this world, what do you think is the leadership that is required to induce everyone to protect the nature and to live together? Well, that's a very good question. And if I wish I could know the answer. Well, one thing I could say is that
강연도 청해 듣고 했던 세계적인 최인구달 박사님이 늘 하시는 말씀을
Dr. Jane Goodall always says this thing. She says this.
우리들 중 그 누구도
No one
하루를 살면서 이 지구에 어떤 형태로든 영향을
should
미치지 않는 자가 없다.
There is no one who does not leave any trace or impact on earth in our life. As we do that, everyone should make an effort to live a new life. And if all these efforts add up, it's going to become a big force.
세계 80억 인구가 다 같이 해야 된다고는 한 번도
And she
얘기 안
never
하시더라고요.
said all the people on earth must make an effort all together. But what she says is that if you make an effort, and I heard we have more participants this year than from last year. And if we try to make an effort, I believe someday these efforts will pay off. Even if we cannot reach a consensus, we can reach an agreement that is similar to the consensus. Thank you for your question. We're going to take the next question. Do you have any other questions?
스태프분들에게 마이크를 전달받으면 좋을 것 같습니다.
So we will give you the microphone. Good morning. I'm from Busan International High School. I'm Ji-yeon. So in the last part of your presentation, you've mentioned about eco-vaccine, and you've mentioned that that equals natural protection. So I would like to ask how we are going to protect the nature. Many companies mention that they protect the nature, but that's all fake. And we use paper straw to replace plastic straw, but that hurts tree, and eco bags are not eco-friendly at all. So how can we practice nature protection in our daily lives? So thank you for your good comments. Even though we make a lot of activities in order to protect nature, but to tell you the truth, you've mentioned that that is not helpful to the nature. You've mentioned that point. So let's give it up then. Because everything's got destroyed, right? Let's just play. Let's just forget it. How about this? But we cannot do this, right? We need to change. Even though our efforts are not enough, we need to make efforts till the end to make a better world, to make a slightly better world. But as you mentioned, if our activities that we are doing right now result in a less destructive way, or if we can reduce the destruction, But after all, it will destroy the nature. But if so, then we may feel just helplessness. But nowadays, I think that I'm old enough, so I retired from doing the research. So I raised the next generation researchers. I suggested research idea to my students, and we realized for the past 3 to 4 years that if we stop acting, then the nature got restored in a very quick pace during the pandemic time. So the ecologists, we kept a record of destroyed nature, but we didn't keep record of the nature's restoration. But one day we realized that the nature got recovered quite well, but we didn't track the process. So to the next generation ecologists, I gave the research idea to research the ecological restoration process, because the power of restoration and the nature itself may be bigger than we think. If the researchers can shed a new light on the record or the process to you, then you may be able to get some hope from it, and we may be able to start some hopeful speech. I think we can change.
시간이 넉넉치 않아 질문자를 한 분 정도 더 받을 수가 있을 것 같습니다. 네, 바로
just one more question.
번쩍 손을 들어주신. 네.
됐다. 저는 아까 질문하신 분 같은 고등학교 다니고 있는 장세라고
I am Jang
하는데요.
Se-ra from
사실
Busan
아까
International School.
IPCC의 결과와 여러 논문들 이런
If you look
걸
at
살려
these,
제시하시면서
you brought up the studies of IPCC and other studies, and at COP26,
결과가 나왔는데 석탄 발전을 단계적으로 감축하기로
it was agreed that the thermal power generation will be gradually eliminated.
도상국들 전 세계가 석탄을 퇴출한다는 초기의 목표가 있었는데
So they had the initial goal of eliminating all the thermal power generation by 2040, but it has
감축한다고 결과가 바뀌었거든요. 근데
changed to gradually reducing instead of eliminating.
이렇게 조금 바뀌었다고 저는
I think the change was initiated by the developed countries like the US.
원래 결과와 다른 결과를 한다든지 이렇게 좀 기후 변화와 기후 위기에 벗어나는
It seems like some countries are going the wrong direction for climate to tackle the climate change or climate crisis.
고칠 수 있는지 변화시킬 수 있는지 네 말이 좀 길어졌는데 네.
What are the actions that are required to put those actions back on track? Well, I believe that's a good point. And the countries that must take all those advices most seriously is actually Korea, unfortunately. So I used to call the Korea as the climate change pioneer country or the gangster country in terms of climate change. Korea has quite a lot of research institutions and organizations that conduct research on climate change, and we are really good at studying climate issue. So if there's any issue, and those are the institutions, that Korea is the first country to propose the measures to tackle those issues, and everyone applauds it. But a few years later, if we go to the same conference, and the people start to have some bad feelings against Korea, because you said you are the one who proposed these ideas, and you're not doing that. And we are Korea is the country who just say the words and no without any actions. And I think Korea is kind of climate idiot. And RE100, we don't even know how important RE100 is. And if we are not doing it right, we cannot even export. So tackling climate change looks like economic burden on the Korean economy. That's the stance of the Korean government, and it's not the stance of the Korean government only, but a stance of many governments around the world. But if you look at it at a longer term, it actually damages and ruins the economy. But we have to be wise and clever in dealing with this issue. This is a very difficult and serious issue. In the end, the politicians actually don't seem to have a clear idea of this climate change. It looks like they don't know, or they are pretending not to know because they want to pursue some other profits or benefits. So you are the one who must take action. If you raise your voice, they are in the position to listen to your voice. So with this grassroots activities, we have to think of ways to save the future, and we have to keep raising our voices so that the world can change. Thank you for your good question.
So far it was Professor Choi Jae-cheon. Please give him a big round of applause.
Following on, it's time for our juniors to deliver topic presentations. Speakers at the conference will be challenged by last year's Picket Challenge winners. Each presenter is given 5 minutes, although it may be short, but they prepared it very earnestly. And the first junior speaker at the 2023 Junior Ocean Conference traveled all the way from New York City is Kim Se-bin, a 12th grader at Stony Brook School in New York. It's an action proposal to save the crumbling marine ecosystem.
This is the last page. Can we go back to the first page, please? Where are we? Yes. Hello, everyone. This is Olivia Kim from the Stony Brook School. I am running my conservation organization, Hello Ocean, with my brother and my parents since 2020. Let me introduce you to how Hello Ocean started, our conservation practices, the challenges of marine conservation, and our goal. Hello Ocean is named to ask the sea for greetings and its condition. Our family has been living in Jeju Island alongside the sea, so the sea has been always by our side. Then one day, while we were at our favorite beach, we discovered a group of dead fish. That's when we realized that the sea we thought would always be there for us was suffering. After that, we started noticing new things on the beach whenever we visited, such as fishing nets, discarded plastic water bottles, shoes, and other different types of marine litters. Right from that day, my brother and I started to plan a conservation work to save the marine life. Every weekend, we travel around different beaches like Sage Beach, Gwakji Beach, and Hyupjae Beach, collecting different types of marine litters. And I paid so much time on making this map, this cute map, and I want you guys to enjoy this map. And we do beach cleaning through 3 different methods. First, family plogging. Second, with friends plogging. Third, team plogging with other organizations. After plogging, we separate the collected trash into different categories to record what types of marine litter have been collected. This data help us identify the most prevalent types of litter and develop ways to improve the situation. Furthermore, Hello Ocean's conservation practices are divided into 4 different categories. First, blogging. Second, pre-education. Third, listening to environmental-related seminars and forums. And lastly, we raise awareness through social media. I established a club at my school to pre-educate next generation about the crisis of marine life and read children's books to them about environments. Also, I visited landfills, incineration facilities, and recycling centers to understand how the collected trashes are separated and treated. Initially, I wasn't sure how to raise awareness about this crisis, so I started to upload picture of collected litters that I collected with my brother on our Hello Ocean Instagram page and raised awareness. This is the fun fact of our family. We have different beach cleaning equipments in the trunk of our car. And this is me in the United States with my friends. Despite returning to the US for my studying, I didn't relinquish my passion for environmental activism. I continued participating to beach cleaning activities at my school. Even on rainy days, my passion for beach cleaning up did not stop. And I'll skip what I do over the summer, but I do go back to Jeju Island to do one-person picket challenge to raise awareness about the crisis that sea is facing right now. It could be with my friends or by myself, and yeah. And the photos I'm sharing right now is to show various types of litter concentrated in the sea. Those are pictures that I actually took with my phone. And fish carcasses, disposable plastic coffee cups from famous coffee shops in Jeju Island, and kimchi containers from overseas. And you can see the instant noodle wrappers and also other unidentified waste, house waste, are isolated in the sea. And these are the recycling bins that I noticed as after I started the conservation work. And to save the sorry, it's very nervous speaking in front of many people. So, looking closely around us, we can find separate recycling bins like these. If we dispose trash properly in these kind of bins instead of throwing on the ground, we can make a small contribution to saving our environments. Now it is the time for all of us to take care and interest in crisis facing the sea and the planet. There's no right age to start environmental activism. All of you can start right now. Environmental activism alone will not solve global warming overnight. My goal is to tirelessly and gradually collect a significant amount of marine debris and restoring the ocean, which serves as the cradle of our existence to its former state as a diverse haven for marine ecosystem. Everyone, right now, it is the time to start caring about health of marine and marine life animal. And thank you for listening, and it was my honor to speak in front of you guys. Thank you.
주니어 연사의 김세민 양이었습니다.
That's Sevin Kim, a junior speaker. And please use the translation receivers, and we've placed the translation receivers on the tables. Please tune into channel 1 for Korean and 2 for English, so you can choose the language of your preference. And if you have trouble using the receiver, please contact the staff nearest you. Following on, we have Ms. Johnson, Ms. Yorin. She's a 9th grader at Busan International School for Foreigners. She's currently in the United States for vacation, so she sent us a 5-minute video. The theme of the talk is taking action for the climate crisis.
Earth's temperature began to rise. The people of Earth were afraid. This caused many different problems, such as rising sea levels, increasing natural disasters, loss of animal habitats, food and water insecurity, worldwide economic disruption, and acidifying oceans. This was known as the climate crisis. But never fear, a hero came to save the day and stop the climate crisis. But there could not be a hero without a villain. The villain was causing the climate crisis by cutting down trees, using a lot of gasoline, buying more than necessary, buying overpackaged material, and wasting water, food, electricity, and not recycling properly. So the hero had to act fast. She used all her superpowers to stop the villain. First, she educated herself by completing 30 quests of Earth School and gaining knowledge about environmental problems our world is facing. Then she spread awareness through radio programs as vice president of Eco Club at her school, which won the prestigious Eco School Green Flag Award, and created an Instagram account to share her actions and inspire others. She was a worldwide top 15 finalist for the Young Green Leaders Award and took this amazing opportunity to tell you about her biggest action yet. At the beginning of 2021, she decided to count the amount of trash her family was producing because she was learning about environmental problems and wanted to take action. She learned about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and about animals getting entangled, eating, and dying in trash. At the end of each month, she dumps out all the trash they have consumed and counts them in categories: paper, plastic, can, glass, and styrofoam. Then records her result on this Google Sheet. She made a visual chart to help her understand what area of trash she needs to reduce the most. Knowing what category you consume the most can help you take action to reduce it. Her family consumes the most plastic, so that is why she took the following actions to help her reduce plastic consumption. She minimized her waste by using tote bags instead of plastic bags, metal straws instead of plastic ones, and tumblers instead of plastic cups. She also made many different homemade products, including lotion, toothpaste, soap, and deodorant. She upcycled, turning old items into new ones. She donated to secondhand shops and bought secondhand and in flea markets. All these actions helped her minimize waste. But she is not the only hero out there. You can be a hero too by taking small, consistent actions. But there are a few tools you need to become an environmental hero. You need a cape. This represents the willingness to go wherever your actions are needed. You need a mask. Behind every mask is a thinker who is aware of problems and finds solutions. Gloves are important because you need to get your hands dirty and work constantly for change. And finally, you need a heart. It is necessary to have passion and desire to want to make differences. If you have these traits, you are set to be a hero too. Here are some simple actions you can take. You can reduce, reuse, repair, recycle, take public transportation, go on a bike and walk, save electricity by turning off lights and unplugging plugs, find a community to help fight against climate crisis, and finally, let the world hear your voice. Become an environmental hero. If you would like to know more, here's my Instagram and Gmail. Thank you for caring.
Although she could not join us in person, that was a very good video telling us her stories. And next up is our youngest speaker of the day. That's Mr. Kwon Woo-jin, a 6th grader at Gildeon Elementary School in Incheon, the heart and practice of saving the sea. So please give him a big round of applause so that he doesn't get nervous.
Good morning. I'm
the winner of the Sustainable Ocean Award at the Junior Ocean Picket Challenge 2022. I am Kwon Woo-jin, a 6th grader from Dilju Elementary School. I am not an expert in environment or activist. I'm just an ordinary student. And today I'd like to tell you why I am here. I am a member of a volunteer organization at my school, and I became interested in environment. So I started to read books regarding environment and read some news article about environmental crisis and started to realize how serious it is. So I joined Environment Protection Club and is doing some environmental protection activities near my town. And I was really surprised and heartbroken when I saw a video of sea animals dying due to marine pollution. So I participated in the Junior Ocean Picket Challenge, and I won the award, which allowed me to attend the Junior Ocean Conference for the first time last year. At the conference, I was deeply impressed and realized that small activities that we do can help save the marine environment. And also, while listening to the stories of my older brothers and sisters, I thought it would be great if elementary school students could also participate. I also hope that the Ocean Conference would have a big impact not only in Busan but also in Incheon, where I live. So I would like to suggest 2 things today. First, although we are young and we may lack a lot of knowledge, but we love the ocean more than anyone else. So I think as juniors, we need to take action. We should take the issue seriously and voice out our opinions. Should we wait for adults to take care of the environment and pass it on to us? It's not about a far future. It's about now, and our trash-filled oceans won't wait any longer. Second, the movement to protect the marine environment should not stop here. It should spread more widely. When we think about the Korean Sea, we think of beautiful Busan and Jeju beaches, but we also have the west and east coasts. And the west and east coasts, as well as Busan and Jeju oceans, are connected to the world oceans. So everyone on the planet must work together to save the oceans. I participate in the club in my school, in the campaign, carbon neutrality campaign at my school, and I constantly do plugging activities. And I'm also the student council vice president at my school, and in the second semester, I plan to organize an environmental campaign and a flea market. And my family and I, whenever we have time, we go to the beaches and pick up trash there. In particular, the west coast of Incheon, we have tidal flats formed because of the tides. So it is really beautiful, but it makes me sad at the same time. The photos that you are currently seeing is Wolmi-do and Ulwangni beaches. They are famous tourist spots, but there are a lot of trash like these firecrackers. This is the photo I took from Wangsan Beach. You can see a toy says stop. It was like a message that the ocean is sending to us to stop throwing our trashes into the ocean. Colleagues, the ocean, the source of our lives, is dying. We cannot stop the ocean from warming, but we can slow it down. Please show your support for saving the oceans and take action from now on. The ocean may seem silent, but it's still calling out to us. Thank you.
인천
That was Kwon Ujin from Gilju Elementary School in Incheon. The following is a talk by a teacher who is partnering with our juniors. That's Ms. Teacher Im Il-lang from Jeonbuk University High School. We invited her as a junior partner, and the theme is Making the School Environment Hip. Please welcome her with a big round of applause. Good morning. I am a social study teacher at the high school. My name is Im Il-lang. It is nice to meet you all. Last year, for the performance assessment, I ran this Ocean Picket Challenge, and luckily one of the teams won the grand prize, and I am here at this year's conference with my team, and I felt the enthusiasm felt by all the people here. I just started the education on environment, and I'm still looking for the best way to give the ideas about environmental protection to my students. I was really wondering if my method is really a good one and the right one, and I'm not really I'm certain whether my change of my mindset would help the environment. But here we have to get away with the guilt and the skepticalness. And the guilt will dash our efforts towards the environmental protection. What I felt during the course is if we just make this kind of efforts without any pleasure, it's going to make the process very dull, and you have to feel the joy of doing something, and that's the power that will continue our efforts. And I ran this Thunberry project, and you may know her about this letter. It's a chain letter, and it said like this letter started from Thunberry from Sweden, and this letter was spread to my students, and they kind of developed interest in this. And when they I ran this title-taking mission to my students, and every time they took the title, I gave them the prize. And we also had an MOU with the pizza shop owner, and we also gave out the coupons, and we read the environmental books together, and we had a book talk with the library head, and the song that was composed by my students won a grand prize at a contest. And my students also do the kitchen gardening, and we also put up on the stage an English show titled Let's Bear, and we also made a very nice structure out of waste. And my students developed a vegan menu, and we selected 16 people as the climate change committee members, and we finalized the agreement on the climate change. I still feel really impressed with the feeling I had this day. So I was really happy to see the faces of the students who felt very proud of themselves having done all these things. And I even remember the day of this musical that we all put on the stage together. And all of these things made me a different person. And during this process, I discovered the power that juniors have. You may believe the individual efforts may not be enough, but if you feel so, you have to raise your voices so that your voices can be heard. And if you keep doing that, then the things may change. So you will have to keep raising your voices and keep delivering your voices. Your message will be heard and powerfully enough to change the system. So rather than doing some grand cause or any grand campaigns, if you do what you can do, we will be able to make big changes altogether. Your path may be lonely and uncomfortable. It may not look good. I understand that, but I believe the people here will be able to feel the joy of making a change to the world. And the world looks different as you are joining this Junior Ocean Conference, and we can work to make the world a different one with our own efforts. Thank you. From Jeonbuk National University High School. The following is a guest speaker from the international section. Mr. Haji Kaji is a junior environmentalist from India who is actively engaged in addressing the serious environmental issues in India and the future generations. He is now studying in Connecticut. And do we have him online? Good afternoon. Hi.
Yes. So, all right. So my name, like I introduced, my name is Hazik Kazi. I am currently 17 years old, and so I'm here just to talk about a bit on my experiences, my journey, and hopefully what I talk about would inspire you. So what do Kim Yeon-mi, Sung Hyun-min, Nadia Comaneci, and Mozart have in common? So they all debuted in their fields when they were teenagers, except maybe Mozart. He was around 8 when he started. But just imagine somebody telling them that they are too young to start. Sung Hyun-min was around 16 years old when he moved to Germany. Kim Yeon-mi was around 13 when she won the Olympics gold in speed skating. Nadia Comaneci was 14 when she did the perfect 10 in gymnastics at the Olympics. And again, Mozart was just 8 years old when he wrote his first composition. So age is just a number, and we in our society in general are brought up to be conformist, and many times it might not be a great idea. Occasionally, you want to challenge the status quo to bring in a change, and that calls for an unconventional approach. Tackling a problem, speaking out for the marginalized and vulnerable part of society, protecting our planet, making an impact, and you're not going to wait for somebody to do it. If you believe yourself, you can do it. There are some things in the world that we just can't wait for, right? Sometimes you have to do it because there isn't another better time to do it. So let me tell you a story, my story, the story of a child wanting to tackle a 5 trillion piece problem plaguing our oceans and killing about 1 million birds and 100,000 marine creatures annually. You will have to excuse me for not waiting to grow up having a go about it. This is a problem of the plastic pollution. Just to give you a perspective, there is about more plastic in the ocean than stars in the Milky Way. Now, I just want you to watch this video and tell me, how do you feel at the end of it?
Is it a live song? It hasn't moved, it has it. It's not a hook, right? I mean, she can't have a hook in there.
If you could, it's...
Try to. Yeah, but then we lose maybe the leverage to actually grab it right now. What is it? Oh, poor baby. I'm sorry. Careful, Mecto. Oh, Mecto, don't. No.
Sí. ¿Sí o no?
No sé. No.
El algodón ahí.
Yeah, could you, one of the swabs, the sterile swabs, could you put them into the iodine and then we're just gonna try to clean it? No, pero no es un hook para es plástico. Is it a straw? Don't tell me it's a freaking straw. Because it looked like in Germany we have the we have those with the black stripes. That would. It's freaky. It's a freaking straw up her freaking nostril.
That's plastic. There's no bone.
So there's lots of stories like this online of like plastic ending up entangled in the lives of helpless marine creatures, fishes swallowing plastic, birds eating plastic, mistaking it for food, right? And you know what the worst part is about all that? When the plastic enters the stomach, it actually fills it up and they're not able to eat anything else. And because of that, they die of starvation. Pain, guilt, and horror. This is some of the emotions that I felt when I learned about how plastic, something that we use every day, is affecting the marine ecosystem in such a huge manner. So, now, once again, my name is Hazi. I'm part of this foundation. And I am the inventor of Ervis the ship. So, now, the plastic problem is a huge problem. There's so much plastic on the surface of the ocean. And when stacked up, it's enough to go to the moon and back twice. So, but when I first learned about this problem, I wasn't really thinking of the moon. I mean, I kind of was. I wanted to be an astronaut. But yeah, so instead, at the time I was playing soccer, and one day when I came home, my mom told me to wash my hands before eating. And this just sounds like a regular old day, right? In just the life of a child. But on that fateful day a few years ago, it turned out to be my eureka moment. So, and it led me, and this whirlpool, this simple, the simple sink, water going down the drain, it gave me a spark, right? And it led me on a journey of self-discovery and also of one of purpose. But let me just rewind a bit. I was watching a National Geographic documentary on the plastic waste crisis. It was a moment which I opened my eyes on the horrifying impact it has on marine life. I was shocked watching so many birds and sea creatures dying consuming plastic. And again, just the horrifying death that is caused by hunger as they're not able to eat anything else. This just left a huge impact on me. Now, coming back to that day when I was washing my hands and I saw the water going down the drain. So, an idea came to my mind and I smiled. So I was thinking that why can't we use something like this? Why can't we have these huge sinks in the ocean, right? Collecting all of the plastic and then, filtering out clean water, safe for the marine ecosystem to thrive in. So I immediately collected some of my toys and I just took them into my bathtub and filled it with water, opened the nozzle, and then I immediately saw the whirlpool being created and some of the toys were heavy, but at least some of them were being dragged down by the whirlpool. So then I went into my room and then I drew a rough model. A circular ship with saucers attached. A very futuristic design, much like the USS Enterprise from Star Trek. So then after a little while, I zoomed around the house and I scrambled and I collected an inflatable tube, kind of like the one you use when you're swimming in water, a few like pipes, a bit of cardboard, and some scissors. And then voila, Erebus version 1 was born. And, this was just like the first draft. This was just the first 3D model. Of course, it was rudimentary. The propellers, they weren't automated. And when I tried to put it in water, it just lasted only like 7 seconds before coming apart. But there it was, my Erebus, my vision of cleaning the oceans. So then, I was fortunate in my school to have a platform called the TED Ed Club, where we kind of ideated upon a problem that we were facing in our local community, and have the platform and the resources to work on this problem and come up with a solution. So there, I chose to work on Erebus, and I was provided like lots of help from my parents, teachers, and friends in order to work on this project. This was in the 4th grade, and once the TED Ed, once I gave my presentation in the form of a mini TED Talk, I moved on a bit. I had school, and then, but about a year later, when out of the blue, I got an email from the TED Ed team in New York, the main guys who wanted me to present my idea of Erebus in New York. I couldn't believe it, just unable, like, I was thrilled to be that I was one of the 10 people around the world, 10 students around the world, chosen from across tens of thousands of videos that the TED Ed team had reviewed, right? This showed that, someone had believed in my idea. But this, like, euphoria did kind of turn into panic, right? There was self-doubt, right? There was questions like, what if I fail? What if people laugh at me? What if I, fall on the stage and if I stumble, if I freeze, right? But with motivation from my parents, friends, and teachers again, for the next 90 days, I had worked hard to put 1 hour of work, just 1 hour, every day to my schedule. I was talking to scientists, environmentalists, designers, and even public speakers to learn how to effectively create an idea which not just, could try to solve the plastic pollution, but also resonated with people, right? How could I make my ship something that could be in the oceans, something that could be real one day, essentially, but also something that could resonate with people? How could I convey this idea of Erebus to the audience, right? But, as you can imagine, the odds were heavily stacked against me. How does an 11-year-old go about solving a problem with none of the 7 billion people in this world, 8 billion people now, have been able to solve? Of course, one of my major inspirations was Boy and Slat, whose ocean cleanup project, even at the time, took so much funding and so many years, and just recently we've beginning to see a working prototype launched in the Atlantic. But at the time, it was not. It was still underway for many years and a lot of dollars involved, right? But then I realized that, again, this idea, it's not just like, not just a part of me, but I really hope that it could resonate with people. As Chris Anderson said, that this idea exists and would always remain a part of me. And nobody can take that away. When I engage with my audience and talk to them, I wanted Ervis to become a part of them, right? Not just when they like listen to my talk and then they just leave the auditorium, but you know, it sticks with them for a long time. So now you're probably wondering, what is Ervis? So Ervis is essentially this giant futuristic ship with various compartments and sources surrounding it. Now just imagine a gigantic vacuum cleaner with many cleaning tubes attached to many dust bags. But again, this was a few years ago. Today, I am balancing my studies with work advocating for the clean oceans. I know that making a ship is a huge moonshot project, and I'm still a long way. I'm still in school, right? And I'm a long way of seeing Ervis actually going out into the oceans and cleaning the plastic waste. But then I realized that this idea, like, there's a lot of people like me, youth like me, who were not as fortunate to have the same resources. So I started the Ervis Foundation, aligning with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, specifically life underwater. We've created curriculums and worked with schools to educate around 1,500 people. Now, I just like, and I hope that, so there's this projection that by 2050 that we will have more fish in, more plastic in the ocean than fish. And that's just terrifying, right? My efforts are dedicated to proving that prediction wrong. I continue plowing and working, and now when I look back at the day when one routine act in the day of a 10-year-old influenced him to dream about change in the world. I hope that you all, as our future generation, will take away some wisdom from my journey and understand the crucial role that you play in conserving our planet. We are in dire need of solutions and actions. And just let us all remember that even small, consistent actions can yield significant results. Just like a way of, let's create a ripple effect. Let's create like a ripple effect, starting small and growing big. Thank you.
That was a presentation by Hajik Kazi, and we were supposed to have a Q&A session, but due to time constraint, we will have to move on to the next presentation. I'd like to ask for your understanding. And now we have left our last presentation. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Tyler Lush, who is the official ambassador of the Junior Ocean Conference of the us. And the topic of the presentation is how can you solve the climate crisis? Good afternoon. It is nice to meet you. I'm Tyler. It is nice to meet you all. Starting from around 2016, I've talked a lot about the climate crisis and the environment, and whenever I have a talk about these issues, and whatever the topic may be, in the end, I get this question. Or, they ask questions to each other, and they keep asking, how can we solve this climate crisis? They want to do something. I don't think it's an easy task. And you may know my background. I have a master's degree in international politics, so I can say I have a background of politics. Well, the climate crisis, to my understanding, in order to tackle this climate crisis, we have to ask ourselves, why hasn't it been solved until now? That is the first question that we have to ask ourselves. We knew the greenhouse gas effect, and that was announced by a scientist in the U.S. back in 1958. And it took about 10 years to find out the cause of the cause of it. And in Montreal and Rio de Janeiro, and those are the cities where the countries met. And in the late 1990s, Kyoto Protocol was adopted, and in 2005, the Paris Agreement was reached, and everyone applauded it. Then, at COP26, instead of eliminating the use of coals, we ended up reducing the use of coals. So, well, the crisis, we realized the crisis. It's been more than 5 decades that we first came to know the crisis, and the Earth Day was enacted in the 1970s. And we took scientific approach, and that's not enough. Scientific approach itself alone is not enough. Yes, it needs scientific approach to solve the crisis, but the reason why we couldn't solve this issue until now, it's not because of science, it's because of economy and politics. And changing the economy and politics requires the institutional change. And how could we not solve this issue? That is because we start from this question first. And this leads to two big issues. First issue is this. So the more we shout, the louder the message. We want to resolve this issue, and you set up your own organization, and the other person does the same, and we don't collaborate, and everyone seems to be busy with their own task, but it's not making any results. And something must be changed in politics and by the companies, and the message delivered by all these different organizations are different and not harmonized. Then what else? What can we do? That's the reaction you get, and there is no incentive or pressure that they must engage in those activities. In order to make an institutional change, you have to focus on one very clear message. The solution must be presented in that way too. And the second issue or the problem is people tend to feel they have this burden. It's not the issue of just an individual level. It requires the collective effort of all the people on earth. You cannot solve, one person cannot solve this issue alone. That means you have to work together with other people to solve this problem. What can I do to solve this problem? That's the wrong start. As soon as you start thinking so, then it's not in the right direction. You have to think of what can I do with other people to solve this problem. Instead of thinking what I can do, you have to think of what others are doing this to solve this problem and make it bigger. So you have to have an approach of a scale. So you cannot solve this problem alone. If you do that, you cannot achieve the right scale, and we cannot solve the problem. Then you have to assess the problem. Again, this climate crisis and environmental crisis is like an institutional issue. It's like a car accident. There are spots where car accidents take place over and over again. You use your navigator and you get this message, this area has had lots of accidents. And that is actually designated by the law in Korea. So if there is any spot that has experienced more than 7 accidents, and that the law stipulates that this spot must be designated as the accident-prone spots, and you have to drive really safely with this message. But even if so, the same message you get the next year, like this is the area where lots of accidents took place. So that means no matter how hard you try and how cautious you are, how carefully you drive, it doesn't matter. actually the accidents will happen at the spot, and when we have a car accident, the insurance company will come to us and to decide who were to blame. That doesn't solve the problem. If you were cautious enough to cross this spot, that doesn't solve. The only answer to this issue is to change the design of the road. But we keep asking ourselves, thinking that what I should do and what I can do. That's not the right approach. The same is true for the climate crisis and environmental issues. Instead of thinking what I can do, you have to think of what we can do instead of just I. So we have to work with others to resolve the issue. So this is the approach that we have to take. How can you solve the climate crisis? So when you talk about climate crisis or environmental issues, it's about the system. It's not that you have to change the environment or the climate. You have to change the system of economy and politics that we have regarding the climate and the environment. We have to think of how can we change an institutional system. But you shouldn't think about it just by yourself. We have to change it also too as we.
이거 익숙하지가 않은 게 좀 있어요. 여러분이 학교에서 뭐 숙제를 낼 때 다 같이 숙제해서 다 같이 내고 다 같이 점수 받으세요? 그런 경우가 있어요? 거의 없잖아요. 팀플을 해도 결국은 각자 점수 받죠.
Even though you do a team play, you get your score by yourself, and you need to do your homework by yourself, and you get the score for yourself. So while living our life, we are not accustomed to collaborate, but we need to change. So the key point here is not that what can I do, it's whether what can we do together, what can I do together with others. So we need to collaborate. Collaboration is key, and collaborative activities are very important in saving our planet. So every year I do a project, and during participating in the Junior Ocean Conference, I see more and more people joining here, so I'm very pleased, and you do some networking here. So let's think about what can we do together here. You don't have to think that you need to do it alone. There are some activities that others are doing already, so you need to make it a snowball. You need to do some bigger activities together. So I hope that you can take this opportunity at the conference and do it that way. I have some ideas related to collaboration, so I wanted to present my ideas to you today. As mentioned before, whenever I give a lecture, after finishing my presentation, people ask me, what can I do? What can I do? And they ask me about detailed actions that they can do right away. But if we do it alone, the scale doesn't come out. But as we are in a conference, we have many people here. There can be some activities that we can do together right away. Then we can do some activity in scale. So I wanted to do some project together. As mentioned, I shouldn't do it alone because it doesn't create scale. So there is a project that I'm thinking about. It is 5 minutes for the future. It is a concept. It is in the ideation stage, so I need your help. So that's why I'm here suggesting you to collaborate together. So the concept is we need to change the political and economic system that we have, and we need to think about how, in order to persuade customers, companies do marketing. And whenever the politicians go on an election, they persuade the voters. They do marketing, so we need to do the same. We need to do marketing activities in order to have some impact. So this is the concept. Whenever you have an event or a conference, you see QR codes. When you scan the QR code, then the idea is that you see a form and you complete a form within 5 minutes, and you provide your email address, phone number, your name, and your record will stay in the system. And when you fill out the form in the conference, then
There can be some activities that should be done by companies. There is an ESG report that the companies need to publish every year, and they need to publish it on their website. It is required by law, but it is difficult to find on their website. If you try, then you will understand what I'm saying. It is really difficult to find on their website. So we may request them to post it somewhere where it's easy to find. So if I post 5 ideas to change behaviors of the companies, then you can do polling. And after completing the survey, then we may be able to have some ample data. Then automatically we can send out via email to create messages that is sent to the company all at once. It is more impactful than writing a letter individually to the companies. We have hundreds of people in this room, and together we can do something more impactful. If we use IT collaborative tools, then we can create a form, and if one fill out the form, then you can create an email, and we can send the same message at the same time. We can do this because politicians are doing it, and companies are doing it to you as a customer, and in reverse, we can send out the messages that we want to send to the companies and politicians in this way. So this is the idea that I have, and I need some help. I need some help from you because I cannot do it alone. We need to do it together. So this is please visit 5minutesforthefuture.com. Even though the explanation is not in detail, you can see the detail content. As an individual or as an expert or as an organization, you can help me out. So please fill out this form. If we have large enough groups to start our activities, then we can begin this idea. So if you're interested, please let me know, and let's see whether people gather and people take care on this issue. This is my suggestion. If you have time, please visit 5minutesforthefuture.com. Even though it's not perfect, in the long run, I hope that you can support making this idea into a bigger one. As you are here today, you may notice that there are a lot of activists who are strong enough, and there are dreamers who have big dreams. You don't have to be perfect. If you have ideas, please share with your colleagues, and please suggest, even though your idea may not be perfect, just say it. If your ideas can be gathered up, then we can create some impact. Please do that kind of networking. If so, then through this event, we will be able to make a big change. Every year, the reason I come back to this Junior Ocean Conference is because I see that this community is getting bigger, and your activities are getting bigger every year. So I want to promote those kind of activities and lead those activities in a good direction. I hope that everyone here could collaborate, not just do it alone, so that we can solve the climate issues together. Thank you.
That was the presentation by Mr. Tyler. Thank you for your presentation.
타일러 라시님도 지금 여기서 Q&A 세션을 마치고 이제 보내드릴 텐데요.
And we will have a Q&A session. We're going to take the questions from the floor first, and we have lots of questions on YouTube. And we will get the questions from the floor. If you have any question, please raise your hand.
지금 제가 조금 뒷분을 한번 시켜보고 싶어서요. 저기 뒤에 지금 흰색 티셔츠 입고 서 계신 분 한번 기회를 드려보도록 하겠습니다.
안녕하십니까.
Good afternoon.
창원여고에서 온
I am
김세진이라고 합니다.
김세진 from Changwon Girls High School.
이 사회에서 서로 함께함이 중요하고
So it is important for us to work together in the society, and you said that's the only way that we can change the politics. But the society is polarized actually, and we see the different aspects of people. People would not barge in their opinions, and they would just talk about. They just focus on dashing others' ideas instead of working together to solve the environmental issues. And against this backdrop, how can we work together? And what is the attitude that we have to have when we work together? First of all, I'm a practical person, so I think the result is important. And if we work together and collaborate together, well, having a strong opinion is actually a good thing. If we have lots of conflict, I don't think that's a bad thing. If we have many conflicts and conflicting ideas, we can reach a more sincere result through the heated discussions. However, when we talk about the ocean waste, maritime waste, climate crisis or environment, we are not thinking together what is the right society. It's actually the matter that threatens the very life of the people, and that's the issue that we have to tackle. Then here, we have to throw away your self-ego. That there is something that we have to do together, and that's the result. And without this result, we cannot live. We cannot continue our lives. So that should be the perspective that we must have when we tackle the issue of climate crisis and environment. And if we have the result out of this kind of process, then the result could be the impactful. And the attitude is that you have to put the solution at the top priority instead of the measures themselves.
현장에 계신 분들로 질문 하나 더 받겠습니다.
Let's take one more question from the floor.
두 번째 칸에 마이크 전달해 주십시오. 감사합니다.
아까 한번 해서
I asked a question previously, so I want to give this opportunity to others. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. I'm from Dongbek Middle School. I'm Kim Soo-bin. The question I would like to ask is, in order to achieve sustainable future, you've mentioned collaboration is important. So, do you think that our own activities does not matter? So collaboration and making an organization isn't a good idea. Practicing activities on our own, such as having an eco bag or so, is less impactful than making an organization. Which do you think is better, making an organization or practicing ourselves? I'm not talking about a better thing or good thing or bad thing. It's a value-based assessment. I'm not into it. I'm not interested in it. I'm interested in the result and the outcome. So carrying a tote bag, eco bag or tumbler, if you do it alone, if you see from a bigger picture, if you see the outcome, compare the outcome to changing the institutional framework or the system, let's compare it. So we need to ask the right question. Although your actions are good, that's a good thing. I encourage you to do so, but I don't have any comment to that. But practically speaking, if you think about the CO2 emissions, in order to reduce the CO2 emission
그래서 우선순위에 다른
in a
거를
large
도와야 될 수도
scale,
있는
you need
거죠.
to prioritize
그래서
on other
어떻게 봐도
things.
솔직히 그
For
가장
example,
임팩트가 있는
to have a
것들은
bigger impact,
법이고
we need to change the
제도적인
laws and
것들이에요.
regulation, the system, the
기준들입니다.
standards
표준을
that we
내세우는
have.
게 중요해요.
So we
그래서
need to
제품을
change the
봤을 때
standards. When
인증이
you
있는지
see the
없는지를
product,
확인하는
please
거.
check whether
그리고
they are
기업들이 자기의
environmentally
어떤
certified.
생산 구조나
And
정과정에 대한
companies
평가를
need
지속적으로
to get
하고
assessment
있느냐.
related to their
그리고
manufacturing
그런 거에
processes,
대한
whether they are
기준을 법적으로
eco-friendly.
만들어서
And
관리하는
if we have
부분들은
laws and
사실
regulations
최우선이
that
돼야지 되는 거고,
manage those
만약에
things,
우리가
it would be
매일매일
the
내가
top
텀블러를 들고
priority.
나간다,
It would have a greater impact than
구할 수
carrying a
있을 것
tumbler.
같은데라는 생각을
And you
하고
may think that you can
있으면은
change the
그건
world
좀
by carrying a
착각이긴 해요.
tumbler. I think
그런데
that's misleading. But that's
뭔가
a good
사람들한테
action in
보여주고
itself. If you can
뭔가
show that you
문화를
carry a
바꾼다라고 하고
tumbler,
있으면
if you
그게
think that it may
가치관이
change the
너무 좋고
culture,
계속해
you have a
주셨으면
right
좋겠어요. 그게
idea.
영감이
That's
될 수
good.
있으니까.
If that can
하지만
inspire others, that's
역시
good.
기후위기
But
문제,
in order
환경
to
문제는 정치
solve
경제
the climate
문제고
crisis, it's a
실제로
political,
우리가
economic
결과적으로 바꿔야 되는
issue,
거라서
and we need to
제도적인 게
change the outcome.
우선시가
So
돼야
we need to
된다고
put the
저는
priority on the
개인적으로
institutional
생각을 하고
change.
있어요.
That's my personal view.
이렇게 모시게 됐는데 보내드리기가 너무 아까워서요.
So,
타일러 라신이 딱 하나 질문 더
Let's
받으시고
receive one
가실게요.
last question
네,
before we
질문 하나
let
더
you go.
있으시면 손을 번쩍 제일 앞에 있는 저희
Please raise your hand if you have
검색
any
티를 입은
question.
남학생에게 기회를 드려보겠습니다. 마이크 전달 부탁드립니다.
네, 안녕하세요. 부산국제고등학교 2학년
I'm
홍세민입니다.
Young Hong Se-min from Busan International School.
환경을 보호해야 된다 좀 강조하셨는데요. 근데 아무래도 지금
You said you have to work together to save the earth, and it looks like the society is not in the right condition to work together. And if we collaborate, I don't think collaborating under the theme of environment is not that possible. Do you have an idea? Well, we may not be able to collaborate because we don't realize the reality. In Korea, the risk that assessment has not been done robustly about the climate change. For example, what if the temperature of the earth rises to this much? What would be the level of sea level? How much the sea level would rise? And those things have not been assessed thoroughly in Korea. However, Korea in Korea, the port of Busan or Incheon may not be able to serve its role even before 2050. So you have to do lots of researches on this, and it may just destroy the economy. So we have to feel the must have the sense of urgency that this issue is a very pressing issue that we must tackle. I don't think this issue has been a very public and common one yet. So I believe the people in Korea or in other countries must have a clear understanding about the issue. Until you have this understanding or consensus, you will not be able to start to tackle on this issue. But if you have understanding how much impact this issue will have, I believe we will be able to start collaborating.
감사합니다.
Thank you.
주니어 해양 컨퍼런스의
So he is the official ambassador of Junior Ocean Conference. Thank you for your presentation.
다음은 축사 영상
Now
시작하겠습니다.
it's time for the congratulatory videos. The 2320 Junior Ocean Conference is sponsored by the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, Korea Coast Guard, Busan Metropolitan City Office of Education, Korea Institute of Ocean Science and Technology, Korea Maritime Institute, Korea Ocean Business Corporation, Busan Port Authority, BN Group Busan Tower, BNK Busan Bank, The Bay 101,
주식회사 오리엔탈 커머스,
Oriental Commerce, Air Busan, iCoop, BNCT,
주식회사 그랜드 LCT 레지던스,
Grand LCT Residence, MSC, Newsone Busan Gyeongnam, and Iroon Dongeng. These are the people who sent their
마음의 인사를
greetings.
전해오신 분들입니다. 큰 박수 부탁드립니다.
Please give them a big round of applause.
먼저 제3회 주니어 해양 컨퍼런스의 성공적인 개최를 축하드립니다. 그리고 청소년 여러분들이 바다에 관심을 가지고 바다를 깨끗하고 건강하게 만들려고 노력하는 모습에 힘찬 박수를 보냅니다.
아름다운 바다를 지키고 가꾸는 일에 관심을 가지고 참여해 주신 것에 깊이 감사드립니다.
지속 가능한 지구를 위해 힘없이 달려온 주니어 해양 컨퍼런스와 올해도 함께 할 수 있어 기쁩니다.
해양을 좀 더 중요하게 생각하지 않을까. 그래서 환경을 다 같이 보존했으면 좋겠습니다.
우리가 더 당당하게 바다를 마주할 수 있도록 해주는 노력과 또 아이디어는 더 많을 것으로 예상됩니다.
우리 모두의 노력과 참여로 지속 가능한 바다 문화를 만들어 가도록 합시다.
지구 환경 보존에 더 많은 관심을 가지고 실질적인 방안을 모색하는 계기가 되기를 기대합니다.
여러분이 보여주는 해양 위기에 대한 적극적인 참여가 지속 가능한 지구의 미래에 대한 해답이자 희망이라고 생각합니다.
여러분의 창의적인 실천 아이디어가 많이 나오기를 기대하며 적극적인 관심과 참여 부탁드립니다.
청소년 여러분이 환경을 지키는 일에 관심을 가지고 적극 참여하는 모습에 깊은 감명을 받았습니다.
저와 여러분 모두가 함께 노력해서 가꾸어 간다면 우리는 당당히 바다를 마주할 수 있을 것입니다.
기후위기 대응과 해양환경 보존을 위해 여러분과 함께 노력하겠습니다.
참가자 여러분 모두가 일상 속의 해양 환경 운동가로 꾸준히 성장해 나가시길 기대합니다. 감사합니다.
함께 하신 시간 다들 어떻게 보내셨나요?
I would like to know how did you enjoy the conference? I hope you enjoyed the time together. I feel like our time together has flown by. Finally, it is time to share the message with those of you who are here today. We are also going to be honoring the 60 or so middle and high school supporters who have been working so hard to make this year's conference happen since its inception in April. Supporters, please come up to the stage.
네, 서포터즈 단원들이 폐휴지 박스에 한 글자씩 정성을 다해
And the supporters will hold up a sign that they have been painstakingly crafting one letter at a time on a cardboard box.
조금 있다가 힘껏 읽어주시고요.
And please read out the message on the screen together with our supporters.
네, 다 같이 제창을 해주실 텐데요.
Please read out the message all together. And we have some housekeeping announcements. And after the event, there will be a photo opportunity in the hallway with Professor Choi and Ambassador Tyler. And please be in an orderly manner. And please return the translation receivers. Return the translation receivers on the desk. And the Kit Challenge winners will be on board with the Korea Coast Guard's Environmental Pollution Control ship today. Please gather at the entrance of the photo zone by 2 p.m. We will show you around. Are we ready to proclaim the message? Ready, set, go! To face the ocean with dignity, a beautiful and sustainable ocean, here, today, we are all together. please give ourselves a big round of applause.
서포터즈 여러분들은
And the supporters can go back to your seats.
죄송한 말씀을 한 가지 드려야 될 것 같습니다. 밖에서 진행되기로 했던 포토존
And the photo zone event actually
먼저 가시게 됐다고
Mr. Tyler had to leave because of his previous appointment, so he cannot join us for the photo event.
타일러님은 개인적인 일정으로
And
가셨지만요.
although Mr. Tyler had to leave here, but Professor Choi is still waiting for us. So after the conference, you may have photo time with Professor Choi. And it's time for us to close this year's conference, hoping for the dreams of the juniors for the future in the oceans and the environment. We will be back with the next year's conference. Please make sure to grab a souvenir on your way out and be sure to keep the photo up orderly. See you next year. Thank you.